I'd like to call the Budget Review Committee to order. It's December 22nd, 2025. We're in the City Hall Aldermanic Chamber at 7 p.m. And the meeting's been noticed in two places, including the city's websites, in accordance with the requirements of RSA 91-A:22. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Tim Senate. Here. Alderman Derek Thibodeau.
Here.
Alderman John Sullivan.
Here.
Alderwoman at Large Shoshana Kelly.
Here.
Alderman at Large Laurie Wilkshire.
Here.
Alderman Michael O'Brien is present, and our chairman, Alderman Richard Dowd.
And we have a quorum. Everyone's here. Okay, first item on the agenda is public comment. I don't see anyone, so there'll be none. Communications,
There are none.
unfinished business,
There are none.
new business resolutions.
Before us this evening is R25-225, or 225. Approving the cost item of a memorandum of agreement between the City of Nashua Board of Public Works and AFSCME Council 93, Local 365, regarding wastewater treatment facility holiday coverage and pay. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to recommend final passage.
Okay, the motion on the floor is to recommend final passage of R25-225, and
Thank you, Dave Boucher,
wastewater
wastewater
director is
superintendent.
here.
This is an agreement between the city and the AFSCME bargaining unit. This agreement is to establish a holiday coverage sign-up procedure and pay structure for the operators at the wastewater facility. The wastewater department operates 3 shifts, 365 days a year. We're required by regulation to have a certified operator there at all times. So this would allow us to fill 6 months' worth of holidays 2 months in advance. We will post it 2 months in advance. The incentive is, if the procedure is that they fill out the 6 months' worth of holidays. If they do that successfully, then they would receive double time pay. If not, it would revert back to the time and a half.
All right. Anyone have any questions for the director? Alderman Sullivan?
Thank you. How were you doing it before?
It was, we call everybody like the day before. We're not allowed to call earlier than that.
Oh,
So I've worked shifts to cover for operators.
okay.
No one wants that third
Follow-up
shift.
question?
So then I noticed in one of the sections of the memo of understanding that if the shifts aren't filled, then they will be filled,
Correct.
but they will not get double time. They'll get the regular overtime wage, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, all right. Yep.
Any other questions? Alderman O'Brien?
Yeah, after 35 years, out of my 35 years on the fire rescue, worked many a Christmas. So just to extend everybody who works for the city, I know the hardship to the families and everything else like that, but we got to keep the place running and keep the lights on in the building. So I thank you and to the people who will be working during this special holiday. Thank you.
Okay. And by the way, anything approved this evening will be on the Board of Agenda for, Board of Alderman agenda tomorrow night. All right, no other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, also before us this evening is R25-229 regarding the future charitable gaming revenue in the Ledge Street School Playground. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make the motion to recommend final passage.
Okay, the motion on the floor is to recommend final passage of R25-229. Questions, Alderman Wiltshire?
Yeah. I'll support this, but how did they choose and who chose Ledge Street School? Not that it's not a deserving and, I'm certain they could use this, but how was that chosen?
I believe, if I understand him correctly, the mayor had a discussion with the superintendent of schools. There are playgrounds that need work. This was the worst one, and they determined that that would be the, at this point in time, getting the notice from the casino short time ago that this would be the best application of the money short-term.
Well,
Follow up?
I don't disagree that it's a worthy project. I just don't like the idea that we don't get to choose or participate in any of the projects that would qualify for this funding. That's all.
Any other questions? Alderman Jettie?
So, so similarly, you know, I came tonight because I wanted to, you know, for your consideration, I wanted you to think about, you know, how this all came about. So, you know, as you know, you know, the casinos, you know, have been operating in Nashua for a number of years. You know, the way that they got accepted is that they came up with this charitable gaming concept where, you know, a percentage of their profits, you know, has to be given to charities. So up until last year, you know, the casinos would pick, you know, two, you know, charities that they would share a percentage of their profits with for a week. And so various nonprofits would apply to the casino to be, you know, chosen to you know, get this benefit. And in 2024, there was a change in, I don't remember the details, but you know, they allowed a different type of, you know, I don't know if it was the historic horse racing part of it that they added to the, you know, instead of just you know, roulette and craps and poker, they added this historic racing thing. And you know, and at some point, I don't know if it was then or after that, they added you know, regular slot machines are coming or have come. And when that was being considered by the legislature, you know, the cities and towns have, you know, to some degree, some more than others, have complained that you know, like the city of Nashua hosts these facilities, and we're seeing, you know, for example, the new one down where the Pheasant Lane Mall was, still is, where the Sears building was. You know, this new Nash, the Nash, you know, has you know, generated, you know, a substantial amount of revenue and a substantial amount of traffic, and you know, a need for increased police presence. You know, my fellow alderman to my right, you know, can talk more eloquently about, you know, the traffic problems that have occurred. The Gate City Casino is moving to, it's going to move to the Sheraton building on Spitbrook Road, which already has a traffic, really difficult traffic situation. So, you know, the city is going to have to spend money dealing with this increased traffic, increased need for police presence. One of the byproducts of gaming, you know, is that, you know, there are people who become addicted to it and you know, lose money. Their families suffer as a result, and you know, we have to, you know, the city has to deal with you know, that to some degree. So, you know, there were people who lobbied the legislature for, you know, what about the cities? Why aren't the cities getting something from these gaming companies. I remember when, the city used to be able to charge for every amusement device, pinball machine, type of thing. We used to be able to, collect a fee from that. Well, these casinos don't pay us anything for that. The only thing we get from the casinos are the real estate property tax. So there was a lobbying effort to, try to get the gaming companies to pay in the form of a tax, some additional money to help the cities deal with the problems that they cause. And so when they were looking at this, amending the law to allow the horse racing, somebody put in an amendment to require that these gaming companies allot a minimum of 7 and at least 7 and not more than 10 days where the city would get the charitable, the share that was going to charitable organizations, that the city could be considered a charitable organization for the purpose of sharing in that revenue. So I think the purpose was to help the city, help compensate the city for the additional expenses that the city incurs as a result of hosting a casino. So these, the casino's not doing it as a favor to us. They're required by law to do this. Minimum of 7 and no more than 10. Well, they're giving us 7. They're not going to the 10. They're just sticking to the 7. And that same week, we're one recipient. There's another recipient, so that percentage, whatever it is, I hesitate to say because it's 35% of the games, the roulette and craps and poker, and it's a different percentage for the machines, the horse racing and the slot machines. I don't remember what that percentage is, so it's not 35% of everything. It's just 35% of some and a smaller percentage of others. But last year for this same week, Gate City paid the Granite State YMCA $143,996 for 10 days. They got 10 days, and that's the amount that they got. So I don't know what, I'm assuming we can expect something similar. I don't know. So that money doesn't have to be paid to a charitable organization, and it could be just given to the city, and then the city could use it to offset the expenses of police, traffic improvements, etc. But if we feel, if the committee and the board feels that it should be given to a charitable organization, remember there are 52 weeks out of the year, and there's two charities for each week, so that's 104 charities can compete for one of these weeks, and the casinos vet them and pick them. We have nothing to say about that. The casino does that. And for us to pick a charitable organization, like the Ledge Street Playground project, again, it's a very, very valuable project. But I think about, we get money, we distribute money to nonprofits through the Citizens Advisory Committee. I think Alderman Tebow is the liaison to the Citizens Advisory Committee. No? You're not?
No.
But, you know, the Citizens Advisory Committee consists of 7 people, you know, 4 nominated by the mayor, 2 by the president of the board, and then 1 is a member of the Capital Improvement, the Human Affairs Committee. And, you know, charitable organizations, 501c3 organizations, apply for grants from the Citizens Advisory Committee, grants from the city. Now, most of the time, you know, most of the money comes from the federal government through the community development block grants. And I don't think the city has contributed much, if anything, in addition to that, but it could. And these nonprofits, you know, apply for these funds. The applications opened November 21st, and they're closing January 12th. So the nonprofits are applying for this money. And then the committee, you know, looks through these applications. You know, people come before the committee, they ask them questions, they answer the questions, and then the committee decides which of these are going to benefit from this money and how much each is going to get. So, you know, the idea that the mayor would just pick this project and designate this money for that project doesn't seem like the right way to do this.
I think I can clarify some of the things that you're talking about. One, the city is not giving money to a 401 charity. The
501.
The city, short time ago, was told if they wanted the money from that week, they had to fill out the same paperwork as the charities do. And that went in, and they filled it out quickly and sent it in. The playground is a city expense, it's not a school, well, it could be a school expense, I suppose, but this particular school does not have a PTO that's set up as a charity, so it's not going to them. The city is building the playground, and this is funding it. The Gate City ended up having a week that they could give to the city this year, and the city had to determine, you know, I mean, it would just go to the general fund, but the mayor thought that since there was that requirement, the city was going to have to do something about this playground, that would be a good short-term use of this money. Next year, there'll be money from both casinos. Nash did not have a week this year to give to the city. But next year, there'll be 2. I believe, and you have to hear from him directly, but I believe the mayor is going to be trying to determine either through the budget process or talking with the Board of Aldermen about how to use these funds going forward. This is just this year, because they had to fill out the paperwork and say what it's going for fairly quickly. Some of the PTOs in Nashua have a lot of money. In fact, some of them are the charitable organizations, and they've applied for money, and I think it was Bicentennial. New Searles, that got a ton of money from the Nash Casino, I believe. So this is a short-term, one-time situation where the city was going to have to rebuild this playground anyway, because it's in such bad shape. And the mayor thought that, since we don't know exactly how much money they're going to get and had to make a decision quickly, that this would be a good expenditure this year. But going forward, there'll be some different way of using these funds. And you'll be getting money from both casinos. And all of the regulations associated with the casinos are all managed by the state, not the city. The Gate City Casino actually called me, because I'm associated through the McCarthy Foundation. We were a charity in that organization, and said, who do I give the paperwork to? They need to fill it out quickly. So I contacted Tim Cummings and the mayor and said, hey. So they got the paperwork, they filled it out, and we have these 7 days now. Money's coming in. The mayor evidently was aware that the city was going to have to replace this playground because it's in such bad shape for the kids, and decided this year that would be the best way to spend it. But going forward, there'll be a different change, and I can't tell you what it is because I'm not even sure the mayor knows what it is, but it may be part of the budget process for all we know. The money's going to come in from 2 casinos. The only problem with putting it as part of the budget is we never know how much that is, because it varies every 7 days. Some weeks are good, some weeks are bad. That's just the nature of the casinos. And it's 35%.
So I think I had the floor, you interrupted me, and I think
Well, I was
I
trying
still...
to answer your questions.
Okay, well, I wasn't asking any questions, but the law says, the law was effective May of 2024. And the law says that game operators are required to annually operate a minimum of 7, but not more than 10 dates for the benefit of the city. So when you say the city had to fill out an application and say what it was going to be used for, I question that.
No, they didn't fill out an application as to what it had to be used for. They had to put in the paperwork to get the money from that week. And then the mayor had to determine how it was going to be spent short-term in this year before the end of December. Because if this gets approved tonight, it goes before the Board of Aldermen, gets approved tomorrow night, and that money would be earmarked to fix the playground probably in the spring. But it won't be going forward what we do with the casino money. They didn't have time to figure out, they didn't know it was coming, so.
So, the city could do anything it wants with the money. There's no, the week has already been designated. It starts tonight. No matter what you do here tonight, the casino is dedicating this week, starting tonight for the next 7 days, half of that money, half of the whatever the charitable share is coming to the city. Half is going to somebody in Wilton. So it's the city's decision as to what it does with the money. It could be put in the general fund. It could be used, as I said, to compensate, to offset the expenses that we pay for police, and traffic improvements, et cetera. Or, what this resolution does is we give it to this project. I think that, there are many needs that the city has. We were here when, we went through the whole thing with the homeless people and how much money we needed to, open up a warming center, opening up a resource center for them. They have a lot of needs. The welfare department, is having to give out a lot of money. That's another need that the city has. The city has a lot of needs, and picking this project, without considering, without a debate about all the other projects, like we do when we go through the budget, I just think is the wrong way of doing it.
If we don't get it approved by tomorrow night, it's going to go in the general fund and won't be spent on anything.
It goes in the general
Or
fund.
whatever happens to it when it goes in the general fund. Alderman Wiltshire, do you have a question?
Well, I have an issue with this, obviously. I've had an issue with it right from the start. And Alderman Jettie brought up the fact that the city gives nonprofits some money, some of it's federal money, some of it is city money. But that money has been cut in half over the last 10 years. You know, HUD's not giving as much money, so, I mean, we are an entitlement city. HUD will give us some money, but we were getting 1.3 million, you know, 15, 20 years ago. Now we're getting maybe 500 or 600. And then, of course, the tax money, so money right out of the budget still goes to the CAC. So there are two pots of money, but the money has really dwindled over the years. So for a lot of the nonprofits in the city, having this casino is a real boost in the arm. I know the Children's Home got a huge check, and we were the first charity a year ago. I think we got $200,000. I don't know if that happens every week or every 10 days, but you know, with other funds shrinking, certainly this kind of money goes a long way for an organization like the Children's Home and others, obviously. My other thing is, why aren't we fixing the Ledge Street Playground if it's that bad?
There are several playgrounds that are in tough shape, and they just had to find some money to fix the one on Fairgrounds Elementary, because normally playgrounds are built by the PTOs and then given to the city, and the city spends some money maintaining them, but not replacing them. I
Barely
mean, that's a whole other discussion, that's Board of Ed and, you know, so there's also a discussion going on about how some of these 501c3s that are PTOs are getting all this money and other schools aren't getting any. So the Board of Ed's struggling with that right now and how to fix that.
Well-
But that's a separate issue.
That is a separate issue.
So, I think I had Alderman Tebow.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
yes, I was
Mr. Chair. So there's a lot to unpack on some of this stuff. I was one of the people that did not sponsor it, and in public comment in that meeting, I mentioned my disagreement with it, and I got some flack for it because not only was this earmarked, but it sounded like they were already earmarking some of next year's for Ward 3 based on what the mayor said. So, so I had some concerns about that, obviously. It had nothing to do with the playground itself, because obviously that, you know, that's a need, that's a need. So President Wilshire's point, why weren't we fixing it? Maybe we gotta make sure that every school has a PTO that can qualify as a 501c3. Then they can get money, you know, alternating years. Maybe they can each, you know, 2 schools a year or whatever, however, maybe even more. They can get money almost every year. That's a lot of money. $100,000 to $200,000 can go a long way on small school projects that, you know, maybe can take out of, you know, our money. You know, and you know, Alderman Jettie makes a great point about the homeless situation. I was surprised that so many people signed off on this, but wanted more help for the homeless. Well, that's probably more important than probably the Ledge Street playground, and even if it is in bad shape. I think, you know, if you look at the two situations, one's much worse than the other. So, you know, I was surprised by that as well. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I'm not going to obviously not going to turn down money to go to a playground, but I did say at that meeting, I said, I just hope, and you know, you've alluded to it by what you were saying, that we have a better process in the future, because we can't just let somebody at City Hall just decide what to do with the money when we have all these things that could be done in the city that we could use this money for. And you know, if it goes into the general fund, of course it can be used for something because it's in the general fund, but it doesn't have to be earmarked per se to something unless it comes through us. If it's earmarked for something, it should come through us, budget, finance, something. So that's kind of how I look at it. Again, I'm probably going to support it because I mean, we're going to have to fix that playground. So at this point, you know, we might as well do it, might as well use the money. But I still want a better process in the future, and I definitely think that, you know, we should really think about this going forward. So thank you.
Alderman Senate?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just right off the bat, this discussion has brought up a lot of thoughts that I have, but we're going to be voting on this again anyway. We're going to vote on it tonight, but the legislation clearly states that once we know what we have, we're going to have a separate piece of legislation to appropriate the funds. supplemental appropriation. We're not appropriating anything, we're just committing to it tonight. I'm fine committing to it because I've heard the complaints and seen the complaints about the state of Ledge Street's playground for years now. And I send my son to a school that up until recently had needs on the playground. I think one of the big takeaways here tonight is, I don't think I'm surprising anybody by saying that our schools sit on a spectrum. And some schools sit with more advantages than other schools, given the nature of the neighborhoods they live in, the student body population, and how that's made up. And some schools are going to have the well-organized 501c3 PTO, and other schools are not, and they're never going to be, and you can't force that issue. And I think leaving something like a playground at an elementary school at the behest of whether or not the school has that, I think that's a sad state of affairs. I mean, years ago, the playground at Sunset Heights burned down. And thank goodness they had a well-organized PTO to replace that. Thank goodness playgrounds aren't made of mostly flammable materials nowadays, like tires. But, I worry what would happen to some of these playgrounds if they got destroyed like that. The kids would simply have to go without if they didn't have a PTO ready to step up and throw the money at it. So, can we have a better way of looking at this? Sure. I feel like this is the real first instance we're looking at it, and if resolving the Ledge Street issue is something that we can do now, I'm fine supporting that. But I really hope that going forward, some of the bigger side conversations that have taken place here really sit in people's minds when we consider how we go forward and maybe look at a better way to address those matters. Thank you.
Alderman Kelly?
Thank you. Couple of thoughts. I agree with what has been said before, that the process felt a little bit weird. Why do we have this just coming up now at the end of the year without a lot of background or anyone to even speak to it tonight? I really struggle with that. I do, because if we let it lapse, then we get to talk about it when it comes through budget, and we can talk about what we want to appropriate it for, versus being told it needs to go to this playground tonight based on what? Now, I'm not against the playground. I have children. They go to those schools, and I've always thought that the way that we fund playgrounds is just wrong. And it was for the reasons that was before mentioned. We're telling kids that we're, as a city, not going to take care of these, and unless you have a well-funded PTO organization, your playground is going to be at the bottom of the list. And I sit on Personnel and Human Affairs, and in Human Affairs, we have city departments come in and ask for money for playgrounds. I just think we have to look at it, and I'm not trying to make this a whole separate issue, but I think it is something that has been consistently inequitable and not necessarily maintained, and we really need to look at that. So I will likely let this go forward to the full board, but I don't know how I'll vote tomorrow.
Anyone else? Alderman Sullivan?
Thanks. I had an open question and then a comment. My open question is that if, according to what Alderman Jettie said, if this law, RSA, that is mentioned in here was passed in May of '24, what did we do with the money last year? Because I'm assuming we had 7 dates. Do we know what happened last year, or did it not happen?
Between the time the legislature passed that in Concord and it got to the casinos to enforce or to be used, was not that long ago, and the paperwork had to be filled out by the city fairly quickly. And I don't remember exactly what the dates are, but it wasn't that long ago. And the mayor filled out the paperwork, submitted it to the Gate City, and that's why we get money this year. Nash told the city that, hey, we don't have any dates this year, starting, you can get one next year by state law. So I'm not even sure Gate City had to do it this year, but they did have a date, so they gave the city the date.
I mean, just for the sake of transparency, I mean, I'd like to see that timeline and the paperwork and how it all came about. my comment is, I had made a note on this resolution that I think that this is a process in need of an ordinance that would basically force whomever to come forward and say, here are some eligible projects based on past revenue performance from the 7 days that we get from the casinos. Here's what I think we could do with that money, and then the Board of Aldermen would ultimately vote on which project. And then my other open question that I just thought of off the top of my head, so just using round numbers, if we use the figures from last year, 143,000, I think you mentioned. Let's just say the playground is 100. That's what it's going to cost. So that 43,000 just goes into the general fund and just floats around and gets assigned, or it just shows up as a surplus?
I think these questions will be more easily answered by Director Cummings and perhaps the city treasurer.
Why aren't they here?
As far as, what?
Why
I
aren't
just
they
asked, why
here?
aren't they here?
Yeah.
Well, I know the mayor's,
budget meeting.
But you didn't mention the mayor, you said
no,
Cummings or
I
someone.
don't know why he's not here tonight, and not online. And let's assume he's going to be here tomorrow night. We can sort of make sure of that, and the question can be answered then. But my suggestion is we pass this tonight, put it to the full board tomorrow, and if these things come up, they'll have more answers. But I only mentioned Director Cummings because I know he's the first one that got the paperwork from the casino. I saw Alderman Senate first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In spite of the fact that I sponsored this, and in spite of the fact that I still intend to support it, I find that we often find ourselves in situations where we have legislation before us with pressing questions that we want answered, and the required parties to get those answers are not here. I really hope that that's something that we can do better going forward. I know that that's a big ask. I'm perfectly aware of the fact that it's December 22nd, that Christmas is 3 days away. But we're all here. We've got full complement. And we're kind of asking questions into the ether, which is really frustrating. And it does put me on a bit of a fence post between my desire to see the kids at Ledge Street get an adequate playground funded and the desire to see us manage our money properly. And just getting to the end of the year, the very last meeting, and say, well, I think we should just pass it. Hopefully they're there tomorrow. Man, that just sits with me the wrong way. So I don't want to put myself in a situation where I'm second guessing myself tomorrow night if those parties aren't here.
I will call Director Cummings and make sure that he's here or someone's here to explain it. I know the mayor's out of town. Alderman Tebow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, that's been an ongoing problem for a long time, and we've brought that up many times before. Did it get better this year? I think a tiny bit here and there. I think it got better, but it's still been an issue. I just wanted to clarify my comments on the PTO. So I just want to make sure people don't get me wrong by saying, you know, we should have a good PTO at every school, and I realize that some schools just can't do it for whatever reasons or whatever. And I know that I'm not going to go get into the reasons because I know they're better. They're issues I probably can't explain well, so I'm not going to try to explain them. But my point on that is, why can't the Board of Education and the administration find a way to force or push, not force because you can't force people to do something they don't want to do or can't do, but push something so that we can get a 501c3 at every school in some form so they can get this free money that's out there. So the tougher decisions for us, instead of, you know, something in Wilton getting it, which is, you know, that's probably a good cause too. I don't want to mock that or anything, but maybe one of these other schools can get them. And yeah, and then we don't have to make that decision. We can use the money for something else or put it in the general fund, or to Alderman Jetty's point, help with the policing of these areas or whatever we need. I don't know how that gets done, but I think the school administration would be great if they could work on a way to do that. And I do understand that some schools just can't get that done, but I would love to see a way to get PTOs at every school that could apply for a 501c3 and be eligible for some kind of money from these casinos. Thank you.
Alderman Kelly?
A final note, and then I'm going to make a motion. I appreciate that this has given us the time to talk about playgrounds, but I think that I'm going to go back to the initial point here, which was we're not doing this the right way. We don't have an actual way of doing this. We haven't talked about it, and I need to make sure that that does happen, because it is our job to make sure where the money is going and not make decisions on December 22nd because it's the last meeting of the year. So I would like to make a motion that we send it to the full board with no recommendation.
I don't think you can do that. It's got to
Yes,
go
you
one
can.
way or the other.
You can. We've done it before.
You
You
know?
can send it to the board with no recommendation. You can also postpone, if you can table it, you can do many things with it. It'll just die, and then it comes back up in January, in 2 weeks.
Alderman Senate?
In spite of all the best intentions, I'm going to support the motion. I led my comments off by saying that once we have this money and we know the dollar amount, we're going to need another piece of legislation to expend that supplemental appropriation. That will be at the beginning of a term rather than the end of a term, and I think that's the better time to do this. I'll do so by echoing my continued support for Ledge Street getting an adequate playground for the children that go there, and the fact that I intend to support that supplemental appropriation when it comes up, should it come up. But I think the point's been made that maybe we're just rushing this through for the sake of rushing it through. We don't even have the money yet, so I'll support the motion.
What is the motion?
Yeah.
To send to the full board with no recommendation. But I have a question. Do we need this legislation? If we're going to have to appropriate the supplemental in January, what does this legislation do other than show our intent to send it to the school?
Good point.
You'd have to ask the mayor or the,
Who's not here?
Yeah. But we're all here.
so,
I mean, come on.
I think the simplest thing, make a motion to table it, and we'll take it off the table tomorrow night. I was told it had to be approved. In order for us to spend this money that we get from the casino this year on this project, it had to be approved before the end of the year.
I don't buy that.
Well, and you can ask the treasurer
No, I can't.
tomorrow night.
Yeah, right.
Does somebody want to make a motion to table?
There's a motion on the floor.
There's a motion on the floor.
Well, we're not sure.
The
we
motion on
are.
the floor is to
How do you
send to the
vote
full
on
board with no
sending it
recommendation.
forward,
What are
no
you saying?
recommendation?
We've done it before, Rick. It's a valid motion.
To table?
No.
To
No.
send it to the board without a recommendation.
Do we have to
Yes,
vote
you
on
could.
it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a motion.
okay.
All right. So those in favor of the mo,
Before you vote, could I say something?
We're in the voting mode.
procedurally, I don't know.
We're in the voting mode. You
Yeah.
called it.
We're-
There's a motion on the floor.
Motion's on
You
the,
can speak to the.
Yeah, we're not
is
voting
it
yet.
debatable, or?
Yes,
Yeah, I think it
the
is.
motion.
All right, go ahead.
So I just wanted to say that when I was doing research about this project, you know, there was I read an article about, at the school board, that there was a presentation where this was gonna be a joint project between Ledge Street School Department, and the Boys and Girls Club. The Boys and Girls Club, you know, owned property right behind the school, and they were going to build a very large playground, a very nice, large playground, and it was going to be a joint project between the Boys and Girls Club and the school, and that the Boys and Girls Club, you know, wanted to do this project, but they needed to use part of the land that belongs to the school, so that they were asking the school to cooperate with them, and that it would, you know, the Boys and Girls Club would build the playground, and the school, you know, would provide the land. So I'm wondering, you know, maybe you could invite somebody that would have knowledge of that. What's the status of that? What happened to that project? And is that not going forward?
I have no idea. Not even sure who to ask.
Well, isn't the school asking for this money?
The school's not asking for the money.
The Ledge Street School does not want the money for this playground.
No, they want the playground. They're not the ones that are asking. The mayor's the one that put in the legislation to get the money for the casinos allocated to this playground. I'm assuming the city is has to absorb some expense to do this project, whatever it is, and that's where he wanted to use this money for. So, you know, I don't think anybody on the school department, or I can check with Mr. Smith tomorrow, but yes, Alderman Tebow?
Thank you. I thought we gave some money, well, I didn't think, I know we gave some money to the Boys Club, because there's that land behind the baseball diamond over there that was like a hard top soccer area there, and we were gonna blow that out, and there was a whole giant hole over there. So they were putting in like street hockey or some kind of court over there. I don't know if that was the project you're talking about, because we were giving money to the Boys Club to do that, but it's literally right next to Ledge Street. It's like almost on the property.
No, we only gave the Boys Club, we own part of the land that they wanted for the project.
That's what it was, yep.
So we just conceded that, yeah, they could build on our property.
We didn't need to give money because they had the money for that.
Right.
Correct.
So I don't know
Well,
if that was
actually, it came
connected
from
or-
donations from the Bruins organization.
Yep.
It's another gift horse that didn't get looked in the mouth, but seems we're doing it here.
All right, the motion on the floor is to recommend no recommendation to the full board on R-25-229. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay.
No,
Motion passed. All right, Alderman O'Brien?
yes, also before us this evening is R-25-231, authorizing the mayor to enter into a revised federal aid program project agreement with the state of New Hampshire Department of Transportation for the purpose of designing a new pedestrian bridge over the Nashua River. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for final passage.
Motion on the floor is to recommend to the full board final passage of R-25-231. Discussion? Alderman Senate?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that I understand what the change in this is, because we approved this project a couple months ago, and I think that this is just a change in language to comply with federal edicts, I guess you'll say. But that being said, it's a change to a complicated legalese project, and again, nobody's here to speak to it. Nobody. And I just find that really frustrating when we have a full agenda in front of us here tonight. I just wanted to get that out.
Alderman Sullivan?
Similar comments. I just wanted to be assured that basically what my question was, does this resolution basically replace the resolution that we passed in August, just with the added language at the end? Because the contract looked exactly the same.
I believe it's just a wording change. I don't think it changes the intent of what we passed before. I think it's just the complying with some word changes from the state.
I believe it's word changes for the federal level, because this is a federal grant.
Everything comes through the state.
Yeah. Well, that was my question.
All right, any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Division? All those in favor? Opposed?
I changed my vote.
For, it fails.
So it fails, so that, it'll come before the full board tomorrow, failed recommendation, and We'll see who's here to defend it. New business ordinances,
There are none.
and we're not taking either item off the table. General discussion. Alderman Tebow?
Thank you, Mr. President. I know he's not here, but I want to thank Mr. Boucher for coming down and being ready to answer any questions that if we had any. Unfortunately, we didn't really have any questions for him, but I do want to thank him for coming.
Okay. Anyone else? Alderman Senate?
Yeah, likewise, I think Mr. Boucher should be recognized for being here. And if legislation is going to fall on a difficult week, if Christmas week doesn't work out for anybody, then maybe the legislation isn't time sensitive. Because I think if we're time sensitive, somebody would be here to talk to it. And that is exactly why I voted no on the last piece of legislation. And I'm aware of the consequences of that. And I'll just say to anybody who might be listening, who might be frustrated with that vote, that's what happens. And I'm here for at least another 2 years, and that's what's going to happen, because I'm frustrated and I know what I can do about it now. So,
Yeah, I expected somebody to be here to talk on all three pieces, but
I would certainly hope so going forward.
any other general discussion?
Yeah, I'd rather be home enjoying my holiday too, but I'm here, so it's frustrating to me too that no one shows up to answer any questions, and we have a fairly decent agenda, not even on Zoom.
I think it would
It's
be.
frustrating.
It would be more advantageous if the president of the board made that known to the city.
Well, if it were my meeting, I would have asked to have someone here.
Alderman Jettie?
I just want to thank the committee for allowing me to speak. And no, I'm not on the committee.
Thanks.
I did come.
You're welcome.
We'll miss you, Alderman.
We are going to.
Alderman O'Brien?
Yeah, I just want to say, I'm kind of disappointed. I understand the want and need for better clarification on the Ledge Street School project, but that's something we could fix, you know? Again, what I said earlier, you know, the old adage is you never look a gift horse in the mouth. We've got eventually are liable to fix this park, and we were getting some, in a way, beneficial money for it from a charity. Opportunity missed. Because I hate in the future, if we could have had, money coming in from donation and not charging and increasing the tax rate. And that's why I voted why I did. And then the second thing is the bridge, pedestrian bridge. Come on, I looked at Rome. Rome had to cross 2 rivers in order to rule the world, the Tigris and the Euphrates. But Nashua seems to have a problem crossing one river. So this goes, and it sounds to me similar to the Broad Street Parkway and the ridiculousness and how many years did that take? So, enough.
Alderman Kelly?
Thank you. I have to agree vehemently with people need to come to the meetings to talk to their legislation. And I understand that it is 2 days before Christmas, and I understand that we expect our city staff to stay often late with us, but it is really hard for us as the stewards of every dollar that we get from taxpayers to make these decisions with nobody telling us why. That's not fair, and it's not right. So while I understand that there are nights when you can't be here, I know. If they can't be here, then we need to change it. They need to send a memo, something, but the work needs to be done in the committees. That's always what we've said. And I am not going to continue getting told, oh, we only have a couple weeks, or, I guess I couldn't come tonight. It's not the way it should work.
Anyone else? Alderman Jettie?
Thank you for the opportunity. I just wanted to respond. It's my understanding that because of the state law, RSA 287-D:4-A, that's referred to in the resolution, that the game operator, Page City Casino, is required to operate a minimum of 7, but not more than 10 game dates for the benefit of the city. So it's my understanding that this week that they're giving us is because they have to, by law.
Right.
If I'm wrong about that.
No, I'm not arguing that.
Okay.
It's, what I'm arguing is, they're running it, and they're giving us, will give us the money if we pass the resolution.
No, they have to give it to us anyway.
We're getting it either way.
Well, yeah,
We're
but
getting the money
what we
anyway.
did, all the mayor did, to me, from what I interpret, because I don't read between the lines, I read what it says and consider that to be truth. Because these are legal documents, am I right? And it says, to take it, and it was supposed to be for Ledge Street School, which is, I think, a great thing. And I don't want to be the Grinch and deny the kids a good and safe playground. So that's my objection. I was there when that bill got passed. And I was also there disappointingly when I saw what the state did as far as Keno. How many Keno tickets do we sell in the city of Nashua? But communities in the state that don't sell one at all get that money? Is that fair? No. There's a lot of problems with it. But again, to me, this was a gift horse in the mouth. Looking at the gift horse in the mouth, looking for problems with it. We could have just let this go just by one and got a nice playground for the kids. That's all. It's an opportunity missed, in my opinion.
Alderman Dow?
Yes, Alderman
It's
Wiltshire.
not an opportunity missed. We're going to get that money. The law says they have to give us that 7 days, so this money's not lost.
No, it's not being spent for the kids at the school, though.
Yeah.
We will make sure that.
Yeah.
Well, it's not about the kids at the school. What we're talking about is not everyone here is against Ledge Street School Playground. No one is.
Well, that's
Well,
the
we're talking-
opinion I have gotten.
Well, that's not what we're saying, so maybe you need to listen to
Well,
what
maybe
we're
th-
actually saying,
Hey,
because
I
we're against.
do-
All right, all right.
I do listen,
Okay,
and I heard what was said, and it's on TV and recorded.
No one is against Ledge Street School Playground.
That's
It's the
fine.
process that is before us that we are against.
It still could go there.
Alderman Senate.
At the risk of repeating myself for the umpteenth time, I'm going to read right from the legislation, the third paragraph. Whereas the amount of revenue needs to be known before the city can pass a supplemental appropriation utilizing these funds. We're probably going to have two pieces of legislation to accept the money first and then to spend it. Nobody has thrown Ledge Street to the dogs. If that's what was at play here, I never would have voted against it.
None of us did.
No, I didn't, and stop speaking out of turn when others are speaking.
Excuse me.
Excuse you indeed. I have the floor.
Go.
I'm done.
Just one other informational piece. Each of the PTOs to be a 501c3 would have to apply. They have to meet certain criteria. It costs money to make that application to the state and a process. And once they're approved, if approved, then they cannot apply to the casinos until they're a 501c3 for over a year. So none of that would happen instantaneously. And the other piece is, I know that the playground situation is under the hands of the Board of Education, and they're going to be delving into that after the first of the year, so. And, all right. So, there's no public comment, there's no one here. Remarks by Alderman and Alderman Senate.
Yeah, just to be a little bit snarky and illustrate what I could have been doing tonight, I'd like to take a little bit of personal privilege and wish my son Nolan publicly a happy 11th birthday.
Oh, happy birthday. Anyone else? Alderman Wiltshire?
Happy birthday, Nolan.
Alderman O'Brien?
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
The motion is to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned at 7:59.